pilot catchment is up in a small system near Stockton-on-Tees called Lustrum Beck. And it's a Lustrum Beck pilot. So to give you an idea of geography, that's where it sits. So here's Middlesbrough and Hartlepool and Darlington. So we're sort of midway down the bottom third of the Tees catchment. And Lustrum Beck drains a fairly small area. It's about 36 square miles, and flows through Stockton-on-Tees before it hits the River Tees, and that's been the issue. In the Beck is or was causing a fair amount of flooding in Stockton, and so 2013 the Environment Agency found a bit of money through the levy to do some work on a pinch point in the middle of town, and spent a couple of million on doing that work, and then the project had a phase 2, which was natural flood management, and this all came about as we were bidding for the frames pilot work, and so we were able to go on to the Environment Agency and say, look, we've got some match funding for your ambitions to do some NFM work, and so the project was born. But to give you an idea of what Stockton looks like around the Beck, that's it. I'm sorry to those residents either side who I've had to crop out of that picture, but there's about 300 homes that are at risk of inundation. The flood risk has now been reduced, and I'm happy to say that this last couple of weeks there hasn't been any flooding in Stockton. I can't claim the credit for that. I might claim some of the credit for that. Thanks to us, there's been no flooding in Stockton. But so our part of the project was to find and develop 28 hectares of OM4A habitat, so that's water-dependent habitat. And so we started going out. I mean, most of the Trust's work is to do with working with farms and finding opportunities to reduce sediment and nutrient loading from farms. And so it's something we've been doing for the last 10 years or so, so we were happy to come and have a look at Lustrum Beck and start to find some spots where we could do roll this work out. And so first job of work is to go out and introduce ourselves onto the farm and start trying to get people's trust. Because the worst thing that you can do really is to trot along to a farm and say that you'd like to inundate some of their fields with floodwater. They'll tell you to get stuck and in no uncertain terms. So what we like to do is to go and have a chat to the farm, talk about the business, and we run these. We start off with a pinpoint advisory visit. So we look at the farm in relation to the catchment, any areas of high risk of pollution, and then we start putting some, drawing some measures up and costing them out, and these all have to have a benefit for the farm business, and so anything that we're coming up with has to talk to the farm business. It's all about the cash, and this is going to be increasingly so. We've talked this morning or heard this morning about initiatives of payment-free existing services and natural resource and all the rest of it, but the bottom line is that folks still need to make money, and so approaching the farm and the work that we're doing with this at the forefront of our minds, any environmental benefit and any flood risk benefit is kind of ancillary. At the minute, this is bonus stuff. What we want to do is to make the farm more cash and to try and stop them getting fined and for infraction of whatever rules they might be infracting. So, as I say, we've built up these measures and work out the payback period, and this project's allowed us to have some funding to put into capital intervention work. So we've put in 50%. We've done 100% funding before, and it was an absolute disaster because no one cares. And if you go along and give somebody 100% funding for something they don't want to do in the first place, so well, thanks very much. There you go, get on with it, and I'm not going to look after it. And indeed, it isn't looked after. But if somebody's invested either money or time, or both, into a scheme, then you get that long-term stewardship of the project, even more so if that talks to the farm business. And so that's what we've been doing there. We also run, on some of the farms, we've been working with Natural England, piloting the farm bench tool, and we've got a few farms now in a farm bench group, others are in their own farm bench groups. But that's been a real eye-opener for us and for the farms, because there's multiple cases where you'll sit down with a farm and get all of the accounts out and go through to the penny of what that particular crop's cost that year. And often has been the case where profit has been negligible or non-existent on certain crops. And once you have that kind of information in front of you, the nuts and bolts, you can then start planning long-term change for the farm business and look at what crops are going to be grown and where, and then start to look at some of the schemes like the Woodlands for Water scheme, and also getting to think about future schemes and payment for system services, and start to work that into the business mentality. I would say the best results that we've had with this are when we've had both the farmer and the accountant, normally the wife sitting there as well, who looks aghast when they see the figures and raised eyebrows or worse, that something could have got into such a parlous state, and that really did that agronomist come around and flog you that? Why have you bought that? Well, 'cause he said it was a great idea. And then you make a quick exit and let them have it out and get the phone call to come and do something useful the next day. So, but the underlying thing of all of this is engaging and getting trust, and well, soft soaping's the wrong word. Really trying to get people to understand and make the changes themselves through the suggestions that you make. And we've seen some really interesting results. Another great tool for engagement is to take a tractor and a bit of kit along to the farm. So this is a soil sitter and subsoiler, and it gives the farm machinery salespeople a chance to come and have a free pitch, and everybody likes to look at a nice big tractor and then have a bit of food, and actually we had an agronomist from Newcastle University there who dug a big old soil pit and looked at root structures and permeability and all the rest of it, and it sets people away thinking and starting to think about sort of maybe making some small changes which have big benefits. So practical work itself, we out of the 28 hectares, we're on to about 20 now. We're going to start work on a final 8 at the end of this month. And so this was a few ponds and some 5 hectare new woodland creation that we made under the Woodland for Water scheme. This was a field that was grazed for sheep and always boggy and really a pain, and issues with fluke and what have you. So we've dug some ponds and planted them up with trees. That's the ponds a few months later. And the woodland to the right, we were quite keen to do some work on too. So we couldn't find out nobody knew who owned that. So I ended up doing a land registry search. I asked everybody, including Darlington Council, who owns that. Anyway, did a land registry search, and it was indeed Darlington Council that owned it, and they didn't know about it. So I suggested that they might want to give us 10,000 quid and let us go and chop some trees down, and it's very, very dense and tall, spindly wood in there. It needed a canopy opening up. So we're just on with that at the moment, and so that will make a total of that'll be 12 hectare by the time it's done of wet woodland, established and new woodland. So great mosaic of habitats. And here's some other stuff that we've done. So again, this is the Woodlands for Water scheme, and we got the farmer to put it's about a 10-metre buffer in and planted it up and made some scrapes in a field corner there before it hits the beck. And the reason he did this, so this is a different farm, but we just suggested to this guy on the top right that he'd go and dig a little bit of a scrape in a low field corner and put something in to the size of his bucket that he could take the load all down and just scoop it out after a big rainfall, see how much sediment was in it. He said, oh yeah, go on, I've got bloody loads of soil, actually, but yeah, why not? And so he dug this, and sure enough, after a rainfall, there was a load bucket full of sediment in there. And so when we went back next time, he'd been busy and put scrapes all over the shop. And we were loving it. He said, well, this one, that's great, lovely. But we also put a rainwater harvesting system into his place too. So that's a 10,000, I don't know, it's 5,000 in the tank, that one. But there's another 5, I think, he's put on there now. And rainwater harvesting, I mean, that'll pay itself back in about 4 years. And the more of these we can get on, the better, because it's less of a drain on resource if you're coming off the main. And but collectively intercepting that much water coming off a huge flat roof or pitched roof area is not inconsiderable. This was through a wood where we went in with a JCB and put in a load of scrapes. This is a 28-acre wood, so we're putting quite a few scrapes down through there. This was it when it was really flowing and got a bit of a phosphate issue going on in here. It's a bit like one of those foam discos where we went in, it was 10 foot high, the whole thing was foaming. It was quite exciting, but disappointing to see so much sediment and phosphate in there. So that's another job of work we've got to do to sort out, and we're working with Northumbria Water on that to do some work on P reduction, but that's a whole other story. And this is that bit that I told you about that Darlington Council have. So that's sort of 8 or 8 hectares of scrapes and things that we're going to be doing there. And this was the last piece of work. So this one sort of caused a bit of head scratching in the Environment Agency. They've asked Newcastle University to come up with an NFM scheme, which they've done, and Arup then designed it, and it's very, very complex. But it's then caused a bit of gnashing and wailing because it's, is this NFM or is this engineered? And who cares, really? The fact is that it's it's going to be intercepting water. I mean, you get some trees and a bit of green on it, it'll only inundate occasionally. But who's to say what NFM is or isn't? And but it has caused some, as I say, some interesting conversations. This is a nice one for us because we're the trust are leading on it, so we can typically with the trust bring work in because we don't have a framework, we're not on the framework, and so we can generally get stuff cheaper than Environment Agency. So if agency people there want to have a chat with their local trust, and we'll sort you out a good price, no probs. Go on. But I can guarantee that the quality will be as good, if probably better, that you might get otherwise, because we do get that additional buy-in, and people do tend to like working with us.